Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you and peace to the rest of you. Yeah, this is Black Heart Plomo again. I've seen lately these videos with Sydney Watson, who seems to be quite astute when it comes to gender relations. And Sydney Watson, I would say, is the Shahrazad Ali, if you will, of white nationalism. Sydney Watson does not tolerate radical feminism to the extent that it becomes unfair to men. She is Australian and American in terms of nationality. That means she's white in terms of origin. And she's made videos about how the left has gone too far, with which I would tend to agree, how there's no free speech and there's no self-defense in Australia, and how it's kind of limited in the U.S. I want this to be understood that there's never been self-defense for black people. It's almost never been legal. And this is something that has been known to people of color all around the world. When other races have to relate to white folks, there's no self-defense law for them. If there is, it's in very few cases, rarely. So this being said, she has done for white men what I would love to see black men and black women do for each other. Refuse to be unfair to the other. She has said feminism is ruining the society and is ruining families. But something else she said showed me what she really meant. What she's really saying is feminism is ruining Western society and Western families. And by Western, she means white. Specifically Western European white. I'm not sure how she feels about Eastern Europeans, but she means Western European white, period. I'm telling you that this is a woman to not make famous, but to pay attention to, because she's not by herself. I think another lady's name is Lahren Southern, and then I think another one is Tami Lahren. If I'm not mistaken about the names, that might generally say the same things. They talk about how feminism has sort of destroyed masculinity, and now these men are useless to women. Now, that in and of itself is somewhat not really concerned with men, because what they're saying is that men have lost their value because they can't change tires and change light bulbs. So and they're still making men very utilitarian, whereas that's exactly what they don't want men doing to women. They want women to be valued for how they are and men to be valued for what they can do. Now, that's still somewhat skewed, but they're trying to at least not be skewed. So why am I taking 3.5 minutes to describe this? Well, I want you to take a look at what Sydney Watson has to say about what she calls white genocide. What she calls white genocide is not really going to happen, but she still has a term for it. And that is because in South Africa, the government has already legalized and at some point will begin to take land away from white landowners, mostly white farmers. And most of them are Boers, Dutch origin. They were the hardest white community on non-white South Africans. And so sometimes they do get killed on their farms. But see, the Boers are rough. I know because I worked with 2 of them. One of them is an urban Boer, and he's, I believe, from Johannesburg. And he is quite the egalitarian when it comes to race. He's more of a classist than he is a racist. And then there is another Boer. Oh, he's much rougher. He's been in the South African military. He went to Angola to put down their uprising. All that stuff. This dude he's one of those racists that thinks he's not a racist. He's one of them. But he's virulently racist. He says stuff that lets you know he's racist, like "you people," exactly like what a racist that thinks he's not racist would say in the United States. "You people." And he gets on people for things like not spending as much money as him on the things that they need, even though they don't have as much money to spend. And he doesn't let black people tell him anything, but he always says, "Let me finish, don't interrupt me," as he's one of them types. And so when Sydney Watson gets to talking about what they're about to go through and what's happened to them, she wants whites to get angry and feel like they're being victimized and that they don't deserve what they're getting. No, it's not the way that works. In South Africa, this is an initiative that's actually come entirely too late. Take the land, don't compensate. Don't kill anyone unless they draw a gun on you as you attempt to take the land. Now, when you expropriate the land and they draw a gun on you, then you kill them with no mercy. Everyone with a gun in their hands, you blow their damn brains out. And if they don't die immediately from that, you shoot them in the private parts, then shoot their brains out again. So that the last thing they feel before they completely die is some excruciating pain, simply because they had the nerve to try to uphold injustice at the expense of black people. Trying to uphold white supremacy. This, what she is not telling you, is that there is no plan to kill or punish any of these white folks today who inherited land that their grandparents got dishonestly. It's just a plan to take the land back, but not to punish the ones who inherited it and did not steal it. She didn't tell you that. She didn't tell you that it's the Boers that are going and getting guns because they're preparing to fight against the government just so they never have to give up this land that they know their grandparents did not take rightfully. She's not telling you that white supremacy is the real religion of the Western European white person, not Christianity, neither Protestantism nor Catholicism. She's leaving this out. She'll tell you some stories in this video about what horrors and white children in the new black South Africa have gone through. Being crucified and raped while their parents were gurgled. And I don't know how true those stories are. I'm not sure. I know that the black South Africans with whom I work think that it is savage to do things like this to adults, even if they are whites, even if they are Boers, even if they're racist, let alone to children. I'm not really sure how true the reports are about what happened to the kids. I don't know. I do know, I am sure though, that whenever something happens to any of these families, it has been because of stuff they've done and stuff they've said. After working with the Boers, dealing with them, I've developed a disdain for their accent. It's traumatic. I hear them talk in their accent and I get afraid because I think I'm about to be attacked. They talk rough, and they have been rough. And they did not suffer adequate penalties when South Africa became black ruled. What they were afraid of did not happen. And now that they're not afraid because it didn't happen, they're acting like they're afraid to justify rebelling against the government. But black people rebelling against their government were treated as traitors. And black and Indian South Africans alike were killed oftentimes for their resistance. They didn't let Mandela out until he sold out. That's the truth of the matter. Violence against whites is treated like it is some sort of blasphemy. No, it is conditional. Violence against innocent whites, well, everybody already knows that that's wrong. But what about violence against innocent melanated people? People have not come to understand the same level of blasphemy that is. But violence against racist white supremacists, ain't nothing blasphemous about it. The absence of violence against them is a blasphemy. Sydney Watson is not explaining this. She wants white women to stop pushing away white men with these radical brands of feminism, which, to be honest, has infected the black community too. But she does not And I can understand why she would want to do this. You see, white men are not making approaches that much. And a lot of black men are now beginning to say, we're not going to approach women either. With the way things are, politically and socially and culturally, we're not making approaches because every approach is a wrong way to approach a woman. Respectfully or disrespectfully, they're all disrespectful. They're all the wrong way. It can lead to a false accusation later. We don't know who's truthful and who's not. And it's too expensive. And at the end of it, if you commit and you get married, you lose your stuff. If you have a long-term relationship in some states without a marriage, you still lose your stuff when she's tired of you. You lose what you worked for. And if you have kids, she gets the kids. That's what they don't tell you. So a lot of black men are beginning to say it's not worth it. We have to deal with racism, white supremacy, and radical feminism from some women that don't realize that they're radically feminist, meaning, in a sense, the opposite of a chauvinist, just as extreme. They don't want to take that risk anymore. But a lot of white men, there are more white men like this than there are black men. There are more white men saying, you got young white guys now that are saying, we will live our lives. High school kids, high school boys now saying, we will live our lives with toys and porn. And that's enough. We can't deal with women the way they are, with what they want, with what they're looking for, and what little they're willing to do in exchange for what they demand. We cannot deal with them. The prices are too high and the returns are too low and the risks are too great. And the rewards are too few. It's not worth it anymore. And white women are coming around to this. A lot of conservative white women are coming around to this. And they're saying, let's go back to the traditional gender roles. And these are conservative white women with jobs saying this. Let's go back to traditional gender roles. Let's get rid of what we've got so far. Let's go back to the 1950s. You know that Make America White Again stuff, Make America Great Again. Their idea, the nostalgic false memory of what America used to be like, they want to go back to it. But what they do want to go back to is when men and women were different and it was okay for them to be different from each other, complementarily. And as they're trying to go back to this, they still are not willing to admit that white folks are the damn problem when it comes to race relations. Specifically the Western European white folks, they're not even fair and just to the Eastern Europeans. How you think they're going to be fair enough to everybody else? And they don't want to admit this. That it is the goddamn Western European that is an oppressor and an oppressor and a colonizer of everybody else. If you tell them this, oh, they can't stand that talk. They act like they want to go back to good old-fashioned values, accept justice when it comes to between the races, because that's not one of their values. You get it from an Eastern European, maybe, before you get it from a Westerner. But if the Western European is bothersome even to the Eastern Europeans, and they don't care, then how do you think they're going to be when they have to deal with people of darker hues than them? They can't stop what they're doing. They can't change who they are. Well, individually they can, but as a collective they can't do it because they kick out and expel from the community any of the individuals who decide to go against it. So you see, and these are the ones that have the jobs to give. So they simply say, you go against us, you'll never get a job, and they mean it. And they don't play. So, this being said, Sydney Watson is just one example of many TradCon women that are very dangerous. Because what these TradCon women are saying is, white man, don't you start sharing equally with these niggas. And as long as you don't do it so that you stay on top, we'll go back to the traditional roles in which we're not always at war with you and against you and driving you away from the families. We'll go back to being the sweet, demure, stereotypical, refeminized ladies of the past. If you'll just take care of us, Let us out of the workplace and let us still have this life of comfort. But do not turn around and apply this idea of justice to other races, because then we all are going to be equal and we don't have the advantage anymore. And then our lifestyle might decrease and go down, take a setback. And we don't want our lifestyles to take a setback. So look, let me say this to you TradCon white women that are now beginning to stand by your man, stand by your men collectively. When economic and financial justice comes to you, the Western European, your men are going to need you. If you really mean what you say, then, well, hey, look, maybe you will be the one comfort for your men when their lifestyles and your lifestyles begin to take a dip. It's not going to happen in my lifetime, I know. I mean, I don't think it will succeed in my lifetime, but I certainly hope it happens within our children's lifetimes. It's not because I hate your children, not while they're children, I don't hate them, but it's because I do not want your children to inherit from you the ill-gotten unfair advantages you inherited from your forebearers, who inherited from their forebearers, going back to a time when Western Europeans took it by force from everybody else and did not earn it righteously. In other words, what the first European settlers came with from Europe, which was nothing, I look forward to your descendants having one day. Not because I hate them, but simply because that's the effects of the reset button when justice is restored. And I'm talking financial and economic justice. When darker skinned people have more resources personally, just like their lands have on average. And when Western Europeans have to hope that they can get to Eastern Europe, if they're unlucky, to get it better. And maybe if they're really lucky, they can go to some really dark skinned countries and do some menial labor and improve their lifestyles and pray that they don't do anything stupid to get themselves expelled or deported. When that happens, when we financially rule the world's resources and you don't, when the situations are reversed, that is the beginning of justice. So look to women like Sidney Watson, Lauren Southern, and Tami Lahren, or Lahren, however she pronounces it. Look to them and see how much they mean it, or how much their ideological descendants mean it later on when racial justice comes to fruition. Assalamu alaikum.